Salam alaikum. Well, this is part 2 regarding Surah Tawba, repentance, and I decided to do it back to back. I just changed my headpiece so that I can remember where I am and so that you can know that this is a new one. To begin with, in all fairness, I want to elaborate, clarify for you once again why I'm doing this. And it has to do with the situation in Gaza and also the 3-day trip that President Trump just made. And remember, I had told you at the beginning of the last lesson that I want you to read Surah Tawbah from the beginning, the first 4 pages, and then I did the next couple with you. And of course, it's mentioning that you have to call them to Islam and then give them, their rights, bring them to their place of safety, not hurt them, not force them to become Muslim, not in any way put pressure that if they don't accept your invitation, that's why we call it an invitation. We use the word da'wah. It means to call. There's no compulsion in this. You're just informed. Now, to put this into perspective, when President Trump went there, who knows why? We don't know the secrets. We know it was a commercial venture, and we don't know what else. He even made a little speech where he said, I don't judge. He said, God judges. Yes, you are right, 100%. But if they did not mention anything at all that was correct, if they did not tell the correct truth, which I'm going to elaborate on one thing I know that they did wrong, but in that respect, they will be questioned severely. But in order for me to make it fair as an American who's studied this for 40 years and who was raised, not only was I raised, top-notch Catholic, 5-star Catholic, but I did always study all the religions, the world religions, and especially I love to study the Protestants in my country, not just in England. It must be understood that when you call someone, or you're trying to convince someone, or you're trying to clarify anything that has to do with the unseen, which is the unseen means the great unseen is Allah. You're going to have a battle with Satan now because Satan doesn't want this person to know Allah. He's even sworn in the Quran, Surah Al-Araf, he said, I'm going to get all of them and they're going to follow me and they're not going to follow you. This is in the Quran. And Allah says, yes, most will follow you. So you see, from the get-go, you have to understand that Allah makes Muslims. Allah joins the hearts. You are merely told to deliver the message, and you leave it up to Allah. Now, how do you deliver it? How succinctly and intelligently are you capable of delivering that message? Depends on who you are. But you see, Allah knows who you are, and He knows who He's sending to you. He knows every atom that's in the heart and minds of Trump and the Arab leaders. I always say President Trump because I feel, why not? It's not going to kill you to give a title to someone. Everyone else will slur, slander, and they have names. I'm not going to mention them, but did you notice how President Trump called MBS, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, he called him Muhammad. He never called him those flattering words that the Arabs use for their rulers. He wanted to make it like friendly, almost like, I actually liked it because what he was doing, he was saying, I'm not going to do what these guys do. I'm not going to flatter you. Well, guess what? Flattering is wrong. And that's why when you know what the Arabs do, they will preface when they're speaking to a big person, they will use all of these terms of flattery. I don't want to go into it now because you won't understand it anyway, but fakhamat al-rais, that means to be very boastful about your president. You're supposed to be fakhamat fi din Islam, not this person. However, it doesn't matter to us because Americans don't do that. And then when we become Muslims, we say akhi, my brother, ukhti, my sister. Well, guess who did that? The Catholics all my life. That's how the religious Catholics in Catholic school, they would refer to the nuns as sisters, but they would refer to the priests as father. Now, there were other forms of priests that were called brothers. Depends on the order, their particular type, but we're not going to go into that. That's not what we're talking about today. I liked it because it was just his personality. And I noticed when he was placed in embarrassing situations like holding on to these dancing girls, he didn't seem very comfortable. I think he portrayed what was or what is or what I hope to be or what I was or what we want again. We want a baseline American persona, no frills, no whiff of royalty. We don't do royalty. Guess who else doesn't do royalty? The Quran. It says when the kings, al-maluk, the dakhil al-qarya, yafsuduha, when they come into an area, they corrupt it. And they make azza adal. They bring the most respectful people down low. This is what they do. It's in the Quran. So my point today was not to describe the trip. I did some of that in the previous lesson, and I was reading the verses that I felt were pertinent in trying to give my take on what happened, because it's very, very important. This is an historical event that's taking place a few days before perhaps the start of a big war. So seeing as I'm, quote unquote, a Muslim historian who knows a lot about the subject, a lot I don't want to know, and I don't want to talk about it. The dirty behind-the-scenes hypocrisy, which occurs all over the world. It's not just them. We have a saying in Arabic. It's called siyasa najasa. It's a little rhyme, isn't it? Siyasa, politics. Najasa is filthy. Which is why I don't want to be involved in it, and I never will. Inshallah, if Allah preserves me, this is what I want to do. I want to tell you the meanings of the words in this book. But just as a little aside, to lighten up the subject. When I was first a Muslim and I went to a masjid, it was the African American masjid, the oldest masjid in the state was actually in Boston, and I went with my son, and it was my first time ever to go to a Muslim masjid. Because I was a Muslim for 2 years before I went to Egypt, but I only had 2 masjids that I visited, and they were mainly Pakistani and with a little touch of an Arab administration. So I wasn't not aware of Islam in America at all. I just was a Muslim for 2 years, studying, trying to make my way through my PhD, and then I knew right away, this is not the place for me. I just knew it. Because when I became Muslim, I had to wear the long clothes. I didn't cover my head, but I stopped, going to the beach in bikinis and all that stuff. I stopped that right away, and I tried to wear modest clothing. But even then, I just felt like I couldn't stay there because I wanted to learn. Something in me pushed me to go to learn Arabic. There's nothing that I had any part of. It was a propulsion, a very strong propulsion that I had to leave and go study Arabic. Anyway, that's what I did. And the reason I did it is now becoming apparent. Why did I do it? Because did I leave my PhD? Did I leave having a potential position as a history professor? It didn't even strike me. It was like something that was so forceful to get me out and bring me to, I say, the land of the Quran, because it is. Egypt is. It's famous, famous, famous for perfect Quran teaching. I won't say Arabic language, though, because they have a lot of work to go before that. But, they do it for each other. But as far as us, no. It's part of probably one of their treaties that they agreed that, these are your folks and we won't interfere with them and you don't interfere with us. And, it's a long story. I don't even want to go there. I don't want to get into it too much because it's disheartening. Is that the right word? But with Allah, there's always hope. We have a word called mutafa'il, optimism. A Muslim is always optimistic. And then we have another word, corollary, mutasha'im. It means pessimistic. And you cannot be pessimistic. If you're a Muslim who believes in Allah and His mighty powers, and you obey Him and you follow the Prophet Muhammad, you'll never be pessimistic. So, with that being said, I think it's only fair that I do not judge anything that went on that 3-day trip. Because Prophet Muhammad said you shouldn't speak about what you do, what you have not seen with your own eyes, what you have not heard with your own ears, and what you have not experienced, your own self. Something called qila wa qala. He said, she said. Prophet Muhammad did not like that at all. So all I can say is I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I only know what my eyes saw. And that's why I mentioned the dancing girls. And what else did I mention that sword demonstration. Donald Trump did not look impressed. He looked kind of glazed over. And I thought, could it be that they didn't really show him the real sword play? They showed him some kind of choreographed, wasn't a 5-star production. Maybe they did that deliberately so that he would feel not threatened. Because if they really went forward in all that swordsmanship that, of course, they still know, it probably wouldn't be polite. So they did this mini version. You have to see it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to watch TV or YouTube or whatever, but I felt it was a historical event that had to be understood, discussed, and critiqued. Why not? And critiqued. So I'm going to say it again. In all fairness, I was not there. I don't know if they called him to Islam. I don't know what he said. However, if they did call him to Islam, it's not this, what the enemies would like to portray. Oh, you will die by the sword if you don't accept Islam right now. No. A person has time to digest this information, turn it over in his mind, study, maybe take private lessons with somebody qualified. At least, if they did call him to Islam, is it any of our business? I'm just, of course, so interested because that's what I would do, but I'm not a man. They are, I really, really don't want to say this, but it becomes more apparent the older I get. You get wisdom as you get older. In spite of yourself, you're going to get it whether you like it or not. For me, I'm not a feminist. I believe people should get married. I believe men should pay for everything. I believe women are better off staying home. I don't believe that working is going to be fulfilling for you. But if you need to, if there's a need, of course. But you know what? We are emotional more than they are. And that's because we care more, and that's because we raise the children, and there's reasons why we're emotional. Allah made us this way. It's not a mistake. But when it comes to things like politics and war, I think it's better off left that subject about how you're going to call Trump to Islam, see, if it were me, I know what I would have already done. I would have said, no, Abrahamic Accords, they're not correct, because they're not. If you want to talk about real Islam revealed in the Quran, how it should be, there's no such thing as one world religion. We're all going to be, what's that word they use, the youth? Kumbaya. Kumbaya. We're all going to hold hands and sing songs and, go to each other's holidays and act like it's not the same thing. Because it's not the same thing. Like these J-word people, I don't even know how I should go into this with you, but Abraham, this is not how they feel. This is not how they feel. This whole thing with Ibrahim and what he did with his father and his children and his followers had their main gig after Abraham was dead. So if you have a Bible and you want to look up, the genealogy and all that, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I would have right away gone and said, no Abraham Accords, knowing that the Gulf Arabs love that idea. When I was there years ago during COVID in Abu Dhabi, they were pushing those Abraham Accords. And of course, if you're a sheikh, you can't say anything because you have to read a script on Friday prayer, and it has to be allowed. In other words, you have to present what your Friday sermon is going to be to, can you see my little quotes? To the kings, to the we call it the nidam. The word is the nidam. To the organizers, you have to make sure they say it's okay. Then they give you a check and you can say it. And I kind of don't blame them. I always give mercy to, see, that's the woman's touch. Oh, they can't help it though, because, the personality of these Arab tribesmen, they're very volatile, and they might easily cause a rebellion, and then that's not good, and that will be bloody for your emirat or whatever it is, your inherited emirat, your son to son. We don't do that here. Somebody's always trying to make us do it, because we had a little bit of a glitch with the Bushes and the who was the other one? And well, the Kennedys were going to try, but they get killed. And now we're having a Barron Trump thing going on. I think he's a really nice young man. I like him. Actually, President Trump's family is pretty respectful, if you compare them to the times we're living in, and the general image is always going to be respectful, like the royal families and so forth. They all look so put together and polite and decent as they go around and rape and pillage. You think they're going to make them look any other way other than decent and respectful? See, I said I was going to read more, and I can't now. Can I? 13 minutes. I'm going to, because I said I would. And I said I would read from Surah Tawba. And I said I would read from where I left off. I can figure out where that was. Yes, they want to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, but they can't. And then, yes, I think this is good. Yes, we'll have time for this much, because this much is a big subject. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره المشركون. He sent a messenger with guidance and with the true religion to make it become apparent over all of the others, although the mushrikun hate it. Those who associate partners with Allah, they hate it. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان لا يعقلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتقوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون. Okay, this is a little bit, well, I shouldn't say, it's Quran, and sometimes it is, what can we say, scary? Yeah, this is scary. Allah says He sent a truthful messenger to make it apparent over all other religions. But then He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you believers. So He's speaking in general to believers. And then He says, Inna kathiran min al-ahbari wa rahban. Now He's telling you that your rabbis and your priests eat up, I already read the Arabic, so I'm just going to translate it. They eat up the wealth of the people unjustly, and they block the true path to Allah. So, those who pile up gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah, let them know, bashirahum, give them the news of a painful torment. It will be a day when the fire, yuhma alayha an-nara fi jahannam. They're going to taste the fire of hell. And tukwa biha jibahahum. They will have their backs and their sides and their foreheads burned. Yes. Let's see if we got them all. Tukwa biha jibahahum, their foreheads, the front of their faces. وَجُنُوبِهِمْ, and their sides, وَظُهُورِهِمْ, and their backs. هَذَا مَا كَنَزْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. This is what you stored up for yourselves, meaning the gold and silver, and not spending it in the way of Allah. Speaking of which, لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. This is what you gained for yourselves. So taste what you stored up. فَذُوقُوا مَا كُنْتُمْ يَكْنِزُونَ. A kanz is like a storehouse. I think I have to speak more on this. I'm not going to read more. I'm going to speak more about it. ذُوقُوا مَا كَنَزْتُمْ. Did you ever hear of the Federal Reserve Bank? I better watch out. You know, if I get canceled, but you know what? I know the YouTube, what's it called? Terms of use of whatever. If you can back up what you say with the religious scripture, you're good to go. They're not going to stop you. Okay? I think I can talk about the Federal Reserve Bank because Allah said, Ma kanaztum. This whole thing. Now, I don't want to talk about banking because I have childhood trauma from this. I really do. Childhood trauma is real. And I never believed in it because I was always the type that didn't feel scared of things or affected by things. I was kind of like a steely kind of person my whole life because I would always remember Allah. So when I would get upset, I would just pray. Since I was 3 years old or something, this was me. I was into the religion, but it wasn't Trinity. It wasn't Catholicism. It was Allahu Ahad. I would talk to Allah. You know what they say in English? I know a lot of foreigners watch my channel, so you know what they say in English? I'd talk to the man upstairs. It's a euphemism that we use, but it's true. I did. I'd look up, and I knew that he was up there, but I just didn't know his name. I didn't know it was Allah. I even said, I don't know your name, but I know it's not God. I was innocent, and I was sincere. So that being said, as far as what I want to tell you about now, yeah, I might as well. Should I? I was raised on riba. I was fed on riba. My father's entire wealth came from riba because he was president of a life insurance company. And he used to say to me, Princess, it's a license to steal. All you did, this is my dad. All you got to do is scare him. Yeah. Imagine telling that to a child. You'd look up to your dad that he was the big man, a wealthy guy, and he had so much power and all his bankster friends. And then you want to see your dad as a knight in shining armor, right? And I remember one time, I'm telling you now, yes, I'm telling you this now. They want war. They'll get war the way Allah wants to bring it to them. I remember I was always a very sensitive kid about the poor and the have-nots, and I used to always wonder why I live in this big mansion and the other kids don't kind of resemble me in any way. We had all these maids, and I felt a little sad that I was different. But I still loved my dad a lot. And I remember one time, he would let me come in the office on weekends and do little things like stuff envelopes for his company, just so I would feel like I'm part of the business or whatever, I don't know. Well, I was the only one that would wake up and go with him because my brothers would want to still sleep. And it was just a sign to me about, I had 5 brothers, but they didn't want to really wake up and do anything. I don't understand why they think men are better than women. They are in some things, but not in everything. It's a balance. Allah makes the world balanced. Anyway, I used to observe what was going on around me, and I didn't understand anything, but I knew it was about money. So one time I managed to catch my dad in a fleeting moment because he was always too busy. And I remember this day the actuary was coming in. These are the big accountants that check the books to make sure you're not doing anything untoward in the accounting world. And I noticed my father was very preoccupied. I'll never forget this day. I said, Dad, how come some people are rich and they're happy and other people are poor and they're happy? How come you're always worried about money and everything around has to be about your job, your business? And I was so innocent, and I just wanted my dad to be cozy. I wanted a cozy dad, which he wasn't. So he looked at me and he said, Princess, what are you talking about? What is it that you want to know right now? Because I'm a very busy man. He used to say that. I'm a very busy man, and I have the actuaries coming in today. I said, Dad, I just don't get it. I mean, can't we all have a share, and then everybody's going to be able to get enough? There'll be rich people and there'll be poor people. But these poor people, they don't even have a house. And you and me and my friends, and we all have 3 houses, and we have the lake house, and we have the ocean house, and we have our house. And I think all of these houses are not a good idea. I think that people shouldn't even buy houses anymore. What am I, a little socialist? I'm a blooming little communist. I just knew there was something, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to express it because I was at that time probably max 12 years old. And he looked at me and he said, Princess, you have to understand, America is built on something called banking and interest. And the part of it that I want you to understand is we have something called T-notes. They're treasury notes. People buy into them. The poor people that you're talking about can buy them too. They can buy at a small portion, at a small investment. And then if they work hard, they can get more money. But you see, this system is tied to something else called the home mortgage business. Fannie Mae. I think he had two words, Fannie Mae and something else. There were two words he used, but I don't remember the second one. He said, this is all a system. It's called the American system. It runs on money, interest, banks, getting money. You know, one of the presidents, he didn't say this, but I remember later that said what was his name? Second World War, I forget. It wasn't Roosevelt. It was, I don't remember. The business of America is business. And now I'm thinking that meeting, with the Arabs and President Trump, he reminds me so much of my dad. I can't tell you, they even semi-look alike. And now it's my childhood trauma is all coming back. And then when I went to high school and then again to college, it was a much wider subject than just spanking. It was about the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower warned us about, and how all of this it's a package. And in that package, you have to do the raping and pillaging. You have to take the natural resources. You have to overthrow the governments in order to maintain the system, because those who are in the system love it because they're benefiting from it. And the others can just, they call religion as the opiate, the Russian Revolution. Somebody said this, Mark, somebody. Religion is the opiate of the people. Meaning, if you're poor and you don't have any money, you're going to get really tangled into religion because it's your only hope. You're going to want to pray and you're going to want to look towards the hereafter. You're going to say, well, I'm hungry now and I'm living in a shack, but when I die, I'm going to go to a beautiful home in heaven, and I'm going to have everything I want, all the beautiful women, all the best cars. I can eat lobster 3 times a day if I want. Well, we do believe in the hereafter where you get whatever you want. We do believe in that. But, when you grow up, you see things differently every phase that you live in, especially if you're studying or you're educated and you want to read books and you want to figure out things like the Civil War. It's 32 minutes. Oh, my goodness. The Civil War. You get what's coming to you when Allah decrees that you're going to get it. Did you know that half of this country killed the other half for 5 years? I mean, those who are listening and who don't know American history, more Americans died at the hands of a fellow American in that 5-year Civil War than all of our other wars put together. All of them. Add them up. We killed more of our own fellow Americans. North versus South. Was it about slavery? See, once again, you'll never really know what it was really about. Some people say it was about the banks. I don't know. But I like to learn. And when I learn, I'm going to teach you. I will tell you things in between the lines of my supposed Tawheed expertise, because I don't want the Quran to be not paid attention to. I'm trying to bring in the supreme morality and fairness of this book, while so many are fighting it and hating it and misrepresenting it. And I ask Allah to give me the strength and the life and my vision. Pray for me. I always say that. And we'll go back to Tawheed, because I'm going to finish that 1,000-page book, inshallah. And I hope you like it. I get I never get complaints. It's perfect. I'm always getting all these comments that are calling me grandma. Sometimes mama. More often than that. You remind me of my grandma. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.